On the morning of October 24, 1944, over the Philippine Sea, Commander David McCampbell looked down from his cockpit at a sight that would have frozen the blood of any ordinary pilot. 60 Japanese aircraft, bombers, fighters, torpedo planes, were streaking toward his carrier task force, their formations filling the sky like an approaching storm of steel and death. McCampbell had only 7 fighters with him, and 2 of those were already low on fuel and peeling away. In the next 90 minutes, this single American pilot would shoot down 9 enemy aircraft, setting a record that stands to this day, the most kills by a U.S. Navy pilot in a single mission. But as he pushed his throttle forward and dove toward that massive enemy formation, David McCampbell had no idea he was about to become a legend. He only knew that his carrier was in danger, that his men were counting on him, and that the sky was full of enemies who wanted to kill every American sailor below. The Battle of Leyte Gulf was the largest naval engagement in human history, involving 282 warships, hundreds of aircraft, and nearly 200,000 sailors spread across an area the size of Western Europe. The stakes could not have been higher. General Douglas MacArthur had returned to the Philippines 4 days earlier, wadding ashore at Leyte with the immortal words, "I have returned." Now, the Japanese Imperial Navy was throwing everything it had into one desperate gamble to destroy the American invasion fleet and turn back the liberation of the Philippines. If they succeeded, MacArthur's army would be stranded, cut off from supplies and reinforcements, and the war in the Pacific might be extended by years. If they failed, Japan would lose the last of its naval power, and the road to Tokyo would lie open. Commander David McCampbell was 34 years old on that October morning, ancient by fighter pilot standards, in an age when most of his peers were barely out of their teens. He had been born in Bessemer, Alabama, the son of a telephone company executive, and had graduated from the United States Naval Academy in 1933. But unlike most Annapolis men of his generation, McCampbell had not gone immediately to flight training. He had served on battleships and cruisers, learning the traditions of the surface navy, before finally earning his wings of gold in 1938 at the relatively advanced age of 28. By the standards of naval aviation, he should have been too old to become a fighter ace. But David McCampbell was not an ordinary pilot. He possessed something that could not be measured in reaction times or visual acuity, an almost supernatural ability to see the entire battlefield at once, to know where every aircraft was and where it would be in the next 5 seconds, to make decisions faster than conscious thought allowed. McCampbell commanded Air Group 15 aboard the USS Essex, one of the most powerful aircraft carriers in the world. The Essex was a floating fortress, 872 feet long, displacing 27,000 tons, capable of launching 90 aircraft into the sky. Air Group 15 had already established itself as one of the most lethal fighter units in the Pacific, with a growing list of kills that made it the envy of the fleet. McCampbell himself had begun the Leyte Gulf campaign with 21 confirmed victories, already qualifying him as a double ace. But nothing in his experience had prepared him for what he would face on October 24, 1944. The day began before dawn, with McCampbell being shaken awake in his cramped stateroom by the urgent voice of the duty officer.
"Commander, they've spotted the task force. We're ordered to scramble immediately."
Japanese forces had been spotted moving through the Philippine archipelago, and Task Force 38 was scrambling to meet the threat. McCampbell dressed quickly, grabbed a cup of coffee from the wardroom, and made his way to the flight deck, where his F6F Hellcat was already being prepared by the deck crew. The Hellcat was the finest carrier fighter in the world, a big, powerful, rugged aircraft that could absorb tremendous punishment and still bring its pilot home. Its Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine produced 2,000 horsepower, giving it a top speed of 380 miles per hour and a climb rate that could match any Japanese fighter. Its 6.50 caliber M2 Browning machine guns carried 400 rounds each, enough firepower to tear an enemy aircraft apart in a 2-second burst. McCampbell had named his personal Hellcat wwiiii, after the Lenape word for island, a reminder of his time stationed in the Caribbean. The first launch of the day came at 600 hours, with strike aircraft heading out to attack Japanese surface forces in the Sibuyan Sea. McCampbell remained aboard, waiting for his turn. The morning passed in tense anticipation, with reports filtering in of massive air battles and successful strikes against Japanese battleships. Shortly after 10:30 hours, the radar operators aboard Essex detected a large formation of bogies approaching from the west, at least 60 aircraft, heading directly for the task force. The Combat Information Center immediately vectored all available fighters to intercept, but most of Air Group 15's Hellcats were already engaged or returning from earlier missions with empty guns and dry fuel tanks. McCampbell was on the flight deck within minutes, strapping himself into wwii's cockpit while the plane captain yanked away the wheel chocks. He was joined by his wingman, Lieutenant Commander Roy Rushing, and 5 other Hellcats that could be launched on short notice. 7 fighters against 60 enemy aircraft. The odds were absurd, but there was no time to wait for reinforcements. McCampbell led his small formation off the deck at 10:35 hours, climbing hard toward the northwest, where the radar contacts had been plotted. The sky was brilliant blue, dotted with towering cumulus clouds that rose to 30,000 feet, their white peaks gleaming in the tropical sun. Below, the Philippine Sea stretched endlessly in every direction, its surface ruffled by a light breeze that pushed small white caps across the dark blue water. It was a beautiful day to die, and McCampbell knew it. At 15,000 feet, McCampbell spotted them. The Japanese formation was enormous, stretching across the sky in multiple layers. Yokosuka D-4Y Judy dive bombers, Nakajima B-6N Jill torpedo bombers, and Mitsubishi A-6M0 fighters providing escort. They were organized with the discipline that characterized Japanese naval aviation at its best. But McCampbell noticed something else. They were not expecting opposition. McCampbell keyed his radio. "Stay together, pick your targets, make every burst count." Then he dove. He opened fire at 300 yards. The Judy exploded in flame. Kill number 1. The formation collapsed into chaos. Zeros peeled away. Bombers scattered. McCampbell ignored the fighters and went after the bombers. 1 Jill fell. Another followed. Then a 0. 3 kills. Time blurred. Ammunition dropped. Fuel drained. Still he fought. 7 kills. 8. Then with his last rounds. 9. His guns went silent. His fuel light blinked. He turned for home. Essex appeared on the horizon. He landed with less than 2 gallons of fuel remaining. 9 kills. 1 mission. A record that still stands. David McCampbell finished the war with 34 confirmed victories. He became the U.S. Navy's all-time leading ace. He was awarded the Medal of Honor. Years later, when asked how he felt, he said, "I was too busy to feel anything. The Japanese were trying to sink our ships. I had a job to do, so I did it."